Call the May 18th meeting of the North Mason School Board to order. Let us begin with the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would just welcome you all to the meeting, and it's good to see you. I don't know where all your relatives and friends are with those cars out there.
Baseball game.
Yeah, okay. Really? And they'd come to that rather than this?
And the play.
And the
And
play.
Okay.
Yes.
Isn't Saturday the last
Well,
day?
okay, the floor is now open for approval of the agenda. And I say that, and I already want to make a caveat. Dana has one item she would like to add.
Yes, I would like to add, at the end of the meeting, we need to add an executive session under RCW 42.30.140, parentheses 4, parentheses, to discuss strategies related to a grievance.
Okay, are there any other amendments to the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, are there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And I forgot to mention that while Dinah isn't here today, we were contacted earlier, so that's an excused absence. So we now are at the public comments on the agenda. So if anyone has anything to say, we are more than happy. Herb, please.
I'm Herb Gerhardt. I'd like to make a comment in regards to the incident we had here at the school, which I thought went very well. I monitored the whole thing from the time the 911 call was made. And I went to the chamber luncheon, and I was the one that told them to make an announcement at the chamber luncheon that the school was on lockdown. And one of the people there absolutely came freaked out. I mean, it was a sheer panic, and I'm going right up to the school. I said, where are you going? I got to go up there. I have 2 kids in that school. I'm getting my kids. I said, you cannot go. You cannot get there from here. The road is closed. You'll see. I'm getting there. There's nobody going to stop me. I finally talked her out of going. And then I went to the community meeting on the subject. And what I took away from that is the parents that were there were also complaining. They didn't know what to do. They were in panics and didn't, I fully understand you cannot call the school. You can't call the sheriff. You just got to sort of sit back and grin and bear it. But the thing that I think that I got out of the community meeting was, and which bears to the same thing I saw at the chamber meeting, is the parents need some sort of guidance or direction, I think. And at the community meeting, they said, well, Facebook and Twitter and even computer emails don't cut it. Mm-hmm. Because some of the people there don't do computers at all. They're at work in the shipyard. They can't have a cell phone. Mm-hmm. So they're totally out of it. They hear this on the news and they just don't know what to do. I think it would behoove the district to send out a paper letter to all the parents and tell them of what the response is, how they should react. The phone tree apparently didn't work well, and that didn't solve everybody's needs either. But just to give them some reassurance that folks don't come to the school. If something like this happens and the school is in lockdown, you cannot come here. Mm-hmm. We cannot accommodate you. And tell them, the sheriff, once the sheriff takes over, they have to listen to their public information officer, and don't listen to the news media, because the news media makes sensationalism out of it. So I urge you to issue a letter of just what to expect. Hopefully we never see this again, but the way our society is going, it's going to happen again. Without
If I may,
Sure.
we have addressed that with our staff and with our.
In the past, that information will be updated in the student handbooks to reflect what we expect now. We didn't do a phone tree. We don't do a phone tree anymore. So we will be expecting that in an emergency like that, community will be directed in advance, and there will be a pre-recorded message that goes out to those who have signed up for it that says you need to go to the sheriff's pages for communication. The sheriffs will have a pre-recorded page that when they're done and it's back to us, now it's time to go back to the district's Twitter and Facebook pages. Those are going to be the way that we communicate during an event with folks. So we'll make sure that all the student handbooks reflect that, and that's where parents get their information. Those will be in the beginning of the year packet, and I really appreciate your suggestions, sir.
Well, from what I'm hearing, and I'm hearing it from the sheriff too, is Twitter and Facebook. I don't do social media. But sooner or later, I'm going to
You're gonna
just
have to
succumb
join it.
and sign up for it. But all in all, I thought the incident went very well, and I consider it, as a taxpayer, it costs a lot of money to do this, but as a taxpayer, you couldn't pay any amount of money for the training that came out of this. So.
Remind folks of your position in the.
Yeah, I volunteer for the sheriff also, so I'm on that side. So
You're definitely in the loop.
yeah.
So you got a car radio and everything.
Oh yeah, I listened to the whole thing right up to the chamber luncheon. I even pulled over to the side and called my wife, and I says, because I have the radio going in my room, I says, you ought to go listen to that.
Well, if we were teams, I'd be right there with you, man.
All right.
So thanks so much. Come on, Don.
I have to say that I'm on that communication system that the school has, like a parent, and I was somewhere between Tacoma and here, and I got on my cell phone, something's going on into middle school, kids are gonna be exiting, if they go south, they go towards the LDS church, if they're going north, they're going down to the Miller Center. That's all I got, but I at least knew something was going on. I figured, okay, whatever it is, something's hit the fan, and it didn't say anything about sheriff or shooting or any kind of stuff, just kids are exiting this way and that way. My only question mark as I'm driving back was like, how the heck are they going to get those kids to walk all the way down to the Feller Center, which I found out later you use the buses. But, it was kind of, I could see going to the LDS church, that's not that far to walk. But if you're on the system, and anybody can be on it, I don't know if we got anything on email, but I did get it on my cell phone. Mm-hmm. So, just so I know what's going on, and if somebody asks me, I can explain to them what's happening. I try to anyway, but I got the message. I just didn't know what the heck to do with it. Then thank God I don't have any kids in school either. But it does work. I did get that.
Good. I got 3 phone calls
Thanks, Dawn.
on the same phone, so, yeah.
Okay, any other public comments? Okay, that brings us to board member comments. And I'd just like to put myself first because it just goes with these other comments. I want to tell you, I was there at the debriefing that Herb just described. And I think he described it very well. Had you been there, you would have seen, I don't know how many uniformed persons there were. There were at least 2 police departments, and certainly our fire department. Herb, what other ones were represented? It was county police and state police, wasn't it?
At the debrief, but overall during the event, there
Yeah.
were 15 agencies, including tribal police, ATF, FBI, Skagit County, and most of the different organizations in Kitsap County, Thurston County, as well as parks, state parks enforcement, and the various fire groups.
Well, you need to explain also that they were in Port Orchard for a training session.
Some of them were,
So
not
when-
all of them.
When the call went out.
Oh, wow.
There was a mass exodus of people from Port Orchard to here,
Cool.
just because they were already there.
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
So they were doing, what they were planning for was what they were finally doing.
That was for the two sets of SWAT teams were at a SWAT training, Don's correct. So we had lots of SWAT.
That's really.
Well, I just wanted to report for those of us on the board and interested in community response, and certainly our chairs, our CEO's handling of it, whatever the exact numbers, you come into that theater and you saw already when you come in, there's a whole table and they're full of uniformed folks. And Dana opened the meeting, and it was no doubt in my mind who was in charge, and that was Dana. And this had been a carefully prepared meeting. It was clear by her manner of conducting it, and then we got off to the uniformed people, and each of them made some kind of statement that was very informative, and just in the course of the fire, of the police and fire, and of course, our sheriff was there, and just in the course of them responding, the audience got a lot of information. Now, the audience wasn't large.
There were
What was-
18 parents or family members.
Yeah,
And the
18.
rest were employees or employees' family members and representatives of fire and law enforcement.
Yeah. So it was small, but I'm not going on size. I would, for myself, a small crowd in a situation like that, for me, is a sign that most people are pretty satisfied. If they weren't, we would have had a big crowd right away. That doesn't mean for a moment that the response of those people aren't as important. They are. So I thought it was very well organized. The presentations were very good and informative. And then then it was open for questions. And there were people that were deeply moved by this. And for me, it's entirely appropriate for someone that has a child to be emotional and critical at the same time. I mean, what parent isn't going to feel an inexpressibly close bond with the child and is naturally going to be suspicious of anything that comes between them and the child? I regard that as entirely natural and appropriate, and I was glad that everyone spoke that did. Various of the comments were critical. I thought they were responded to as well as anyone could expect. And again, Dana was a point person there, but sometimes it went to the, police officers or fire people as well. And my assessment at the end of the meeting is pretty much the same as her. It would be inadequate to say that everybody was a happy camper. There were many people that had concerns. As a member of the board reporting to you on how it was handled, I don't see how it could have been handled any better. There is no formula, whatever workshop you go to, for turning away fear or panic when it comes to a child. No matter what you do, some of that, and properly, is going to remain. The question for us is, did we do everything we could to address those concerns? I would say yes, with the one caveat of the various things that were learned. And I think, those were properly asterisked, as Herb was kind of in our educational ranks too. And I'm satisfied that whatever isn't right is being addressed. It was impressive. I don't think anyone there would have disputed this school was ready. They weren't caught off guard by this emergency. There was a plan in place. It had been rehearsed. They were prepared for it. There were certain other things that slipped through, Some of them are difficult to prepare for. What do you do when a message comes out from a cell phone, goes to one of the stations, and then kids in other rooms are picking up the message from the station that came from, there are challenges distinct to the media age we had. So that's basically what I have to say. I did want to say one other thing. I was very proud of Megan, and she was at this is the awards night. It is always good to see one of our very active student members be recognized for her scholarship as well. So that was really great to see. I've been to other places, but I shall be brief.
Oh, man. Well, on the, about the first incident that you're talking about, and then that we were there for the second incident that was a scare as well. But sitting back and watching, it was amazing to see how everything got quiet and everybody, they turned off the lights, everything went down, and they just sat there and they had to wait. But they treated it like the first time. So it wasn't, a lot of the things that I heard from the community was, you know, the cry wolf thing. What if they don't do something the second time they did the first time? But they were right on it, but they didn't look scared, but they looked concerned, you know, and they were just going at it. And I'm just watching. They let me grab my dog out of the car, which was just terrible. I have a little puppy, but we all sat there and got to watch them all sitting around the table and just waiting for the next move. So it was really cool to see that and to be able to reassure people that they are treating it like the first time, and they will every time. I have complete faith in that. I think Dana does a wonderful job, and her staff is wonderful. So
I was there too, I just wanted to add just a little bit. We were there for our normal Tuesday morning check-in meeting.
Yeah.
And it was reassuring. I mean, I'm partly the eyes of the board, and there I was watching an operation. The lady has a team.
Yeah.
She's calm. And things came in, and she was calm, cool, collected, as were her staff.
That's right.
Denise, etc. Everybody, it was just like, gee, sure, the shock of the event, but the having a particular protocol or several protocols to act upon, to me, was a mark of preparedness. And it's our responsibility to see that our school is properly administered. And I think a good test of that, or the acid test, is when it's literally, hypothetically at least,
Yeah.
under fire.
Yeah. Well,
We're one on that.
Yeah.
Well prepared.
and I felt a lot more calm because at first I'm like, what? And it was like they were ready for it. So they were just on it. It made me feel calm, and I sat and watched. So it was really neat. I also got to be a little bit a part of the thank you, the appreciation week for the teachers. I got to make some of their door things. I don't sell anything, but I'm an artist. I love to create, but I don't get to do it very much because I'm very busy. So anytime they put this thing out, I'm like, oh, you know, I take Mrs. Varick's door. I will take it every time, and I'm going to keep doing it better and better. But this year, I got to do 3 of them. I got to do Mrs. Blankenship's, and I got to do Varick, and then I got to do Mr. Swayzer. And so I thought that was kind of cool. Because Mr. Swayzer is now the thing is that's right. Okay, it's out there. That he took over as principal, so I also got to go up and shake his hand and tell him congratulations. So it was kind of a neat thing, and bake some cookies. They would really like those. It was fun.
Well, what I would like to say, I'm going to put the whole shooting incident and all of that to bed for now, and just say that Monday night, Art and John and I all happened to be in the same place. However, we didn't speak. Just so you know, we don't.
Yeah, we're not on speaking
We're not
terms.
speaking in public, but we were at the award ceremony, the scholarship award ceremony for the class of 2017, and our group, the Scholarship Foundation, was able to give away $42,000 Monday night, which really felt good. But it was it was just a really special night, and especially when Megan walked away with $30-some-odd thousand going into a field that I personally love, which is wildlife and habitat management. So it was just really exciting, and it was fun to see those kids and their faces, and this little, step up from where they're at in high school into another place with a little bit of help. So anyway, I enjoyed that, and I'm going to play tomorrow night.
Not very much, just I will echo what Laura said about the Scholarship Awards night. I was there, that's always fun. I've been going to that ever since I've known about it. But also, you and I went before that to the opening of the garden at the Belfair Elementary that Carla Frontenot, the science teacher there, has organized and created, and that was fun too. Nice to have the kids there and just to have a garden that they're going to work on in the future. Wow. Then also, I just had a lucky chance to be able to go to the girls' fast pitch high school ball game. Well, I forget what night it was, but recently. And of course, they got trounced 23-5 or something like that.
Don't go again, Art. Don't go.
However, it was fun to be there. And I will have to say that our girls on our team didn't seem to be down over it emotionally. I was told also that the team they were playing was really good, and they were expecting to lose, but of course they had the 10-run rule, which ended the game mercifully, I guess a little bit early, but anyway, it was fun to watch. And just to see our kids trying and hustling, and we had a couple of good highlights anyway. And then finally, just wanted to bring up, I've been very active, which I always am, as Don LePere in the audience knows, with the Builders Club, and I have to tell you that tomorrow we're having our field trip to go to the Horse Rescue Society in Grapeview with the kids and a couple of parents, and that's going to be an interesting and fun, it always is, event. And your granddaughter is going, and her aunt is going to that as well. But also that the Builders Club talked Dr. LePere into buying cookies for their part in the Teacher Appreciation Week. So
Oh,
the cookies were for the
cool.
teachers, which was really cool. Actually, their Builders Club kids were prepared to pay for it, but Dr. LePere decided that he would just sort of eat the cost.
Oh, ba-bum.
That's all.
Side comment, he's teaching them parliamentary procedure. So instead of saying thank you, they sang happy birthday to me. It wasn't my birthday.
Right.
That's the kind of goofy things that they do in parliamentary procedure. They do it exactly the way it was supposed to be done. Go off back a few months, but anyway, it was
Little act.
using
Little
use
act.
of the parliamentary procedure.
Art reminded me of one thing, and I give it just as a public service announcement. I did see the play, and my last academic post was in a department that had just separated from the theater department. So I saw university-level theater from people, the people that directed it, the teachers. I mean, they work on Broadway plays, they work on plays all over the world. If you just went to the opening of the play, and remember Dana had us put up some extra money to make that thing tip-top, when I came in and I looked at the set, it reminded me of Memphis. Moving into a professional teaching theater. And then when the play began, one of the things that particularly struck me, and I think it'll strike you if you've seen the plays we had before, not that the plays we had before weren't good, I think they were, okay? They had microphones. They weren't terribly obvious, but they were there. And when they did the singing, every voice was in its way equal. And I noticed that as a difference. And I thought the set was bare. I would have put on a couple more typewriters. It's how to win. What was it? The how to succeed without really trying. An important message for our kids to get. And the coordination, part of this was ballet. I mean, these kids had to do some physically strenuous things that you'd have to have some gymnastics training to do. I saw the things that I have seen in a 2 or 3 step up place. There's also a teaching institution. And I just did not think that there was, while our kids need direction, they're going in the right direction, and they have the same kind of training, the same kind of equipment to train on as one would have in a graduate school for actors. I've been there, I've seen it. Let's have some comments.
Well, first of all, thank you for congratulating me on my scholarships. It was a lot of fun to be able to see how much and how appreciated our students were, and it was so cool to see my peers receive some of those awards. And then also, I'm getting ready for graduation, so that's bittersweet. And I'm also preparing my last thing throughout the high school, and that's the service assembly, so that's been a lot of fun getting to see what the clubs are doing throughout our school. So that's on June 9th if you guys would like to come. I'm really excited for that.
What
And
time?
That's the service assembly?
I think it's at like 9:10, something like that.
What time did you say?
9:10.
In the morning.
Oh, okay. I'm going, wow, it's going to be late.
And where?
In the gym at the high school.
Okay.
You done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Last week, I was at the school at 6 o'clock in the morning to make our teachers breakfast.
Wow.
Yes, and they loved it. So that was our leadership class. Things were kind of just sad that our seniors are leaving, and classes are wrapping up, and CBAs, and studying for finals. Yeah, not a bunch going on. Yeah.
Sounds like quite a bit, actually.
Well,
Yeah.
it is a
It's
lot.
not
Just
fun. Just no fun stuff
it's
going
just
on.
yeah, it's dragging our feet through the mud, but we're gonna power through.
Yep.
Yep.
Darn summer
I know.
has to come, right?
Yes.
Well, okay.
Can I quit? I forgot to say really quick. I'm just going to make this stretch on all day, but
Yeah.
I wanted to say thank you to the PTA. They put on a mother-son dance, and of course, when you have a whole bunch of 7- and 8-year-old boys that come together, there's no dancing much. I mean, some of the girls got out there, and their moms got out there, and just totally, they were tearing rugs, and it was a superhero thing. So my son wanted to be Captain Underpants, and I went to it. So he was Captain Underpants. I got him the bald head and everything. And I was Catwoman, but not like Catwoman. I dressed like it was more like a sick thing, you know, like I had a cat problem, but it was fun. And I saw at the PTA they do some really cool things. And I just wanted to make sure I said thank you. They might be watching, and I just wanted to put that out there for them.
All right.
I won't talk anymore today.
We've got order. We've also got soul here. All right.
That's right.
Anna?
I actually have something coming up now that I'm really looking forward to. In April, we had the Washington Association of School Administrators yearly event, and it's a very nice awards dinner that we do up at the casino at Suquamish for all of the districts in our ESD. And at that event, we announced and presented some awards to community leaders who have particularly contributed in ways to kids in our community. And one of the folks that we hoped to present an award to that night was so busy being a community leader in our community that he couldn't be there. So I do want to take a moment tonight and present to Ray Mao in recognition of outstanding community leadership and service to education and the young people of Washington, and particularly of North Mason, a certificate of merit from WASA for outstanding community service for our kids.
All right.
Thank you very much for the award. I was at a school board meeting, couldn't make it, I had commitments to it.
What? You have another school board?
I have
show
about
me
8 different school boards, helping all kinds of kids. And My only comment about the lockdown, it took more time for me to calm my wife down than the kids down. And when it was all said and done, I was a little bit bothered that the sheriff's parking on brand new grass.
Me
So-
too.
So, I didn't see much damage, but I think I went well.
They didn't tear out, did they? They didn't like,
No, I was waiting until it was all calm before I raced and called the sheriff and said, "What are you doing?" Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, good job.
And while I'm presenting awards, as the girls mentioned, it's kind of a bittersweet time of year. So by our June meeting, Megan will have graduated. And we hope that Grace will attend that June meeting for her last meeting. But in recognition of the work that the girls have done this year, we have a plaque for each of you.
All right.
And then you can shake everybody else's hand. So, thank you. Thank you. Good job. Thank you. Thank you. Good job. We're gonna miss you. She's a senior. Grace is coming. Grace is coming back. She'll be a senior.
Oh, yeah, you are coming back to this, isn't she?
Well, they get to do it for 1 year in your board
Congrats.
policy.
You've been great.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you. We will be talking again.
Congratulations again.
Oh, would you like to do a picture? Sure.
I
We'll all
thought you
crowd
were,
around it back.
Yeah, we'll all
We'll just squeeze in and you guys be in front.
Yeah, we'll have like the bunny ears in the back.
When we do a couple, so don't if we
all right.
Wait, okay. Make sure I took the right chair.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Okay, we're now on to the consent agenda.
More people.
Is there,
We had a really full morning.
is there any item on the consent agenda that anyone would like to pull and have considered separate?
No.
All right, hearing none, I would accept a motion to accept the consent agenda as printed.
I move we accept the consent agenda as printed.
Okay, any further discussion? Dana, there was something here that you said a couple of
Yeah,
things.
the one thing I want to
um,
draw your attention to
Yeah.
is item H, the West Sound Middle School League proposal. This is a proposal that has been discussed in our middle school athletic league in the past. It is a proposal that has been adopted in some other middle school athletic leagues around the state. But each of the school boards in our middle school athletic league is being asked to consider this proposal and to vote yes. The point of this proposal is to basically flip-flop when middle school major sports occur. So instead, under this proposal, middle school football would be played in the spring instead of in the fall. Middle school baseball and softball then would be in the fall instead of the spring. Everything would flip-flop. Track and field, cross country, etc. Winter would stay the same. But the reason to do that is there's a couple of reasons, and one particularly makes really good sense for us. Many of our students do not have the opportunities that students in different kinds of communities have to participate in travel teams and other kinds of outside of school sports teams that help them hone their skills and get better because many of those things cost a lot of money, and that's not necessarily something everyone in our community can do on their own dime. But another level of that are some of the things that we do have available to us, like Pee-wees and which don't cost quite as much. But currently for middle school kids, when those seasons run exactly the same as the ones at the school, kids have to often make a choice because the practices and games conflict. So this would take that away, and kids would be able to do local athletics in the what would become the off-season, and then still get to participate in the school sports. So they would get more practice, and that would help maybe build some skills in our kids as they move up towards high school sports. The other thing that we're looking at, and that all the leagues are looking at, is the condition of the surfaces on which the kids play, because whether it's North Mason or Central Kitsap or Bremerton or wherever, we not only do we have all of our school teams using our facilities, but all of us have lots of other community groups using them, and by kind of staggering how many football games are happening in an area, or how many baseball or softball or soccer games, and spreading it across the year, that helps us maintain quality of those facilities without them getting run down, et cetera. So that's the reasoning. Also, I think, and probably one of the most important things, as the WIAA pointed out to us, sometimes it's hard to get coaches, but sometimes we might be able to either have somebody who's already involved in the coaching team at the high school who wouldn't want to be coaching at the middle school during the same season would be more available, or vice versa. So it might help us get coaches that are there to work with kids better. So I think all around it provides a lot of benefits. It would take some adjusting for community and everyone, but in order to go here, all of the teams in our league, all of the boards are going to have to say, yes, this is a good idea. So I'm asking you.
I think it's an excellent idea. It also solves that issue of football for the high school is practicing and middle school can't practice at the same time. I mean, it really will make it far more efficient in terms of scheduling practices and games and so forth if we flip it that way.
Right,
Also,
and if
this-
you're a parent at both levels, sometimes you can't go to both sets of games. This will make it a little easier.
Very true. Also, this spring has been absolutely horrible for softball and those ball games in particular.
Right
because
now,
of the
I think our
field.
middle school baseball boys of 9 potential games have gotten to play 3.
Yes,
You
they're
know, and
still
it's
playing.
better
My brother's on the
there's
team.
less rain in September usually, so.
Yes, yeah. No, I completely support it.
Very.
Okay, I'm glad that we got that, because I think that that particular item, just for us to know, is, in a way, it kind of addresses the concerns of some of the peewees, does it not? By
Community
freeing.
groups, yes.
Yeah, so by helping us make our facilities more available to other groups in the community. So I think it's a good move. Now, this brings us to, well, see, we've got
Another-
Yeah,
Let's vote.
yeah.
Not quite. I had
Sure.
a question, comment, or whatever it was. One of the things that happened after that lightning storm that we had was the internet out my way went down for a whole week. I don't know how many people were affected, but I sure was. And so I'm realizing that I've just looked at it, that I missed seeing the new course request on human body systems.
Yes.
I just quickly looked at it, but that doesn't tell me a whole lot. Maybe, Deanna, if you could just very briefly tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
it.
so human body systems is a course that is going to probably will replace anatomy and physiology in our course list, but it is a more hands-on, more experimental-driven version of anatomy and physiology. It's a STEM course. It's the second course that follows behind the new Project Lead the Way 9th grade science course that we put in, so it follows right along. Our plan ultimately is then to add the 3rd year course, which goes even deeper, and eventually a 4th year course, which is actually a course where the students design their own investigation. And so it's the next step in deepening our STEM offerings at the high school. The high school is, there will probably be a few other new courses, as with some of the hiring that we've gotten. We're getting to add some engineering and some other STEM-related things for next year that we haven't had in the past. So we're trying to strengthen and update our offerings in science, engineering, math, and technology so that we better prepare our kids for getting out there and into the world.
Did you say form their own problem?
In the fourth, well, they do it throughout all of these courses, but in the fourth year, it's a completely student-driven investigation.
Just an example? What would they, that, I mean, it's really remarkable
They
to
might,
be
they
able to-
might want to look at, because it is a biomedical science strand, so they might want to look at transmission of flu in their school and do something like that, or they might want to look at the impact of health classes on student, student weight. There's all sorts of things, or something they could do something much more in depth than that.
Like the
So
life of lice and how to get rid of it. And
okay, let's focus.
That's,
I'm calling for the question.
yes, okay. All in favor? Any further discussion? All
Did
in
that
favor?
answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that brings us then to 3, amendment to Resolution 01G17, issuance by the district of its limited general obligation bonds. And this is for our information.
So I want to be clear. We did, as you know, we tabled this from the last meeting. We had a community member request. We consulted with district council, and council was very clear that we could have left it exactly as we first approved it, that it was legally okay to do that, but in the interest of clarity, and if we wanted to make this change and make a resolution to change the language, to remove the word new from this resolution when discussing the stadium project, that we could do that. We could also choose not to, but I believe in the interest of clarity, it makes sense to go ahead and make that change. So that's why I'm making the recommendation to the board to do that.
Okay, so this is more than, so there would come down to, before we do that, then,
We have to go to a
we
public
we
meeting.
have to go to a public hearing.
Right. So you have to open the meeting.
Yeah, so,
Recess to a public hearing.
yeah, so with that transition, our meeting for a moment is not gone, but suspended. And we're now into public hearing on amendment of resolution 01G17.
Okay.
Is there anyone who would like to comment?
I did receive a written comment that I've been asked to read into the record.
All right?
Okay. Dana, in reviewing tomorrow's board meeting materials, it appears the language in the amended resolution has been changed, deleting the reference to the new stadium. Thank you. I watched the January 19th meeting, and when I asked whether the non-voter approved bonds could be used for new construction, you told me that the school's legal counsel had no issues with it. When the resolution was approved that evening, it was clear to me that the plan and the board's intent was to build a new stadium adjacent to the old central kitchen. Director Whiteman questioned what other alternatives you had considered. I also noted after the board unanimously approved the resolution that Director Whiteman said something about the board would have to tighten their fiscal belts, as $4 million is a lot of money. The record should also reflect that the student board representative did the board's performance rating at the end of the January meeting. I still think the memorandum of understanding with the county approved that same evening should be revisited, as the RCO grant references the new stadium as well. I still have concerns that the $4 million was not voter approved. Please enter these comments into the public record for the hearing. Thanks, Ken Van Buskirk.
Any other comments? Well, hearing none, I declare the public hearing on amendment of resolution 01G17 is now closed, and we are back into our regular board meeting. And where we are now is on B under 3, which is resolution 9G17, amendment to resolution 1G17, and this is an action item. So the floor is open for a motion to move Resolution 3B.
I move that we approve Resolution 09G17, amendment to Resolution 01G17.
Okay, discussion. Hearing none, we'll go to the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the resolution passes. We're now into item 4, superintendent update for our information.
And we'll start with our finance report. I do want to say, although we're still sad that Kathy is moving on, you did approve in the Human Resources report today the hiring of a really strong new candidate, and we will have the opportunity for her to spend some time with Kathy before Kathy departs and as she comes on, so that we have a really smooth transition.
Hopefully we can convince her to come to the next meeting.
Well, and hopefully if she's done with her other job. She's currently working for the state auditor's office, and she expects to finish auditing her last school district sometime in the middle of June.
Mm-hmm.
So good evening. I'm here to present my normal monthly financials, because I was hoping there would be more information from the legislature, but there's not. We're actually coming to the end of our first 30 days of special session, and word on the street is that they'll probably just end that and just go right into another special session. So we don't really have any information from the legislature, so we aren't really able at this point to make really good financial decisions. We're kind of hoping to wait a little bit and see what was happening. So I'll go over what we have now, and then I'll kind of give you a little more update of that on the end. So right now, the information that you have in the packet, it is showing that our revenues and our expenditures both are a little lower than budget. So the revenues a little lower, expenditures a little lower, which kind of equal themselves out. It just depends sometimes about when you're spending or paying an invoice that kind of makes that fluctuate. But year to date, our expenditures are a little bit higher than budget, about 16,000, but our revenues are about 100,000 over budget. So we're doing quite well there. And there's some graphs that will show you those expenditures as well. As far as fund balance goes in our general fund, we're right now we have about $3,300,000 in our general fund. It's quite high because we've collected all the taxes this month. This is the biggest month for taxes. And then we'll see that typically decline until we get to the end of the year. I think we're quite a bit above our 3-year average, but we're fairly close to where we were last year. And I think with some of the summer projects and some of the things that we have going on, we'll probably end our fund balance about the same as we were last year, a little over $2 million. So we should be doing well there, and that information is in there as well. So with our other funds, our capital projects funds, and again, we got a little more state match this month, and we still have the money that we got from the non-voted debt. So we have about $5.5 million sitting in our capital projects fund, and we still have some state match that we still have to claim as the bills come in for the middle school. Those will get submitted to the state, and then they'll reimburse us for that. Debt service, we have about $2.4 million, and that will dwindle next month because we have a bond payment due, which is due twice a year. ASB, always very stable, about $300,000. And then our transportation vehicle fund, which is kind of the fun one to talk about this month, but we have about $177,000, and remember that is money that comes in from bus depreciation, and we are paying our very last loan payment out of this fund on June 1st. So that is about $109,000, and that was again for a fleet of buses that they bought several years ago when they had to, they had to put a new fleet, a new brand in. So hopefully, I've been actually talking with the transportation department, and we should get a pretty good depreciation payment in August. So we're talking about getting some new buses in to kind of replace some of the aging fleet.
Nice.
How many buses do we have that you would consider to be in the aging fleet?
A lot. All the ones we bought with the loan.
All of
They have
those?
about a depreciation, well, it depends. The big buses, there's the smaller buses, I think those run about 12 years on the depreciation schedule, and the big ones run about 18 years. So this year, at the end of August, we have about 44 buses, I believe, 45 buses altogether, and that's big and small altogether. We have about 10 of them that are falling off the depreciation schedule. So once they're off, we don't get any more money. So that right there tells you they're about 18 years old. And we are really, really lucky. We have a great mechanic. We have 2 great mechanics that work at our transportation department. And we've had some bad luck in the transportation department in the last couple of months. We've had some uninsured drivers actually hit some of our buses. And so some of those were able to actually, one of them was totaled because it was so old it wasn't worth fixing. So we were able to buy those buses back for $1 from our insurance company, and then our mechanic is able to take all of the newer parts off, and so he's just parting them together, and of course they're in good shape, they're just aging. And then once they age, if anything happens, it's like an old car. You don't really get anything back for it. It's just gone, and then you're out of bus. So
Did you say we own everything we've got now? We paid our last car?
June. Mm-hmm.
So every one of those buses we see is ours?
Yes.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome?
But
It
we
is.
do need to start thinking about purchasing.
And we
buses.
have, since Kathy's been here, we've been replacing some.
Yeah, buses are odd because buses are funded only by the depreciation. So they take a bus, very basic, they take a bus, they say you have 18 years on the schedule, and we're going to just say that every year is worth a certain percent. So we think that your bus is depreciated by $2,000, so that's what you're going to get this year. So all the way to 18. So on the 18th year, you usually get a bigger payoff. So we're getting, I think, about $10,000 for each of these buses that are coming off of this schedule. So we're going to get a hefty check in August that can only be spent on buses. So my goal, and I've been working with the transportation director, is that you have to get the bus as soon as you get the money, so you can then stagger your fleet, and then your depreciation continues to come in. We'll probably see some new buses coming on, and then maybe some old ones retiring. So.
What happens to, like, when we get rid of a bus and, like, you surplus the bus? How does that go? Do you just send it to the junkyard, or does somebody buy it, or?
We surplus it through our school board, through you, and it depends. So we have, for instance, a bus that we just bought for $1 that will have all the parts off of it, and that is typically, after it's surplus, sold for scrap metal. We get a little check, probably a couple $100, because once we pay to have it towed, there's just no market for picked apart used school buses. And then other school buses that are still usable, if we're just not using them, or many districts have them where they just age out, or they decide to get a different manufacturer, from Thomas to a Bluebird or whatever they do. They usually surplus and they sell them, just like at surplus sale. But they're not real marketable. You get a couple $100 for a bus, maybe $1,000 that you've paid $100,000 for. So it is what it is.
Yeah, wow.
And then my final page is just our enrollment, which is still actually looking really good. We're down about 8 FTE which again, it tends to drop a little as the year goes on. You get some graduating early kids and.
But ultimately, we're still, again, we're funded on our average, so we're still about 30 FTE above our average of our budget, so we're still doing quite well on that. I was going to talk about the legislation a little bit. Oh, I was going to talk about, I should have talked to begin with. My goal is to, and we've talked about in cabinet
And with leadership and the superintendent, is to have a budget to you by next month, so the next board meeting in June. What we've determined, I think we might have talked about this before, I might have at the last meeting, is because there's nothing happening, we're just going to assume that nothing's going to change, and hopefully as the time goes by, we can always say, wow, they gave us a ton of money, so then later on in the year we can do a budget extension so we're able to spend that money. So I'll build a budget based on what we know right now and where we're at now, and assuming there's maybe not new money, we'll build in a little capacity, and then if when the legislature comes back and tells us we're fully funded and we have all this money, then we can extend and figure out what we're going to spend it on at that point. I lost my train of thought. For June. So in June, I'll present that to you, and then hopefully in July we can have it actually published and have an open meeting, and then we can adopt it in August. So it should work well before we go.
Anyone have any questions? Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. So for teaching and learning, as you saw in the consent agenda, we had the first of a number of new courses that will be proposed. We're very excited that those will be available. We are moving towards having some engineering and pre-engineering opportunities for kids in middle and high school, and also some computer science and coding opportunities that expand. So all of those things will be really good at giving our kids more opportunities, and you'll see several of those next month, I believe. Some of them are coming to us as part of the Project Lead the Way that we've already adopted, like at the middle school, and because of the way it's structured at the middle school slightly differently than at the high school, those may or may not come as a completely new course proposal because they're just different modules instead of a whole new course at the middle school. But we'll be telling you about all the new exciting things that we're going to do. Also, we've heard a couple of times before, but I did want to emphasize our students are doing a great job with the play, and please take an opportunity to go see it. We have also started last night, went on tonight, but tomorrow from 3 to 6, and Saturday from 10 to 3, the FFA is having their first plant sale out of the greenhouse, and they have some really nice things. So if you need, or you know anybody who needs plants for their garden this summer, they need to come up and check that out.
Where?
At the greenhouse.
They go to the greenhouse.
Mhm.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
when are they open for that?
3 to 6 tomorrow and 10 to 3 on Saturday. The garden opening at the elementary school was amazing. It's also very exciting now that we have the greenhouse. They're going to share that with the middle school, and there will be some horticultural related things happening in middle school science as well next year. Senior Awards Night you've already heard about. It was amazing. We have so far counted almost $250,000 in scholarship money that our seniors have already been awarded, and
Wow.
as you know, those keep coming in as we go towards the end of the year, so they did an amazing job this last 4 years. And don't forget, we have graduation coming up. I also think an important thing for you to know about, it's not really teaching and learning related, but we are one of the partners. The Sheriff's Department is a sponsor for Special Olympics, and they are doing the torch run through Mason County, and They are going to at 8, what time did I tell you
8:30.
guys?
We'll
8:30.
be out there.
They will
Whole
be
school.
running through the campus so we can all cheer them on. So that's really exciting. We let the leadership kids know so they could organize something, and it will
What
be
day is
really
that?
neat. June 1st.
We got the middle school involved too.
Excellent.
Mhm.
It'll be really, because they're going to basically come up, maybe the back, go
So
along
we
your back.
heard
I
up
told them to
James
come up the
Taylor,
back way past
and then-
James Taylor, up here around behind us, and you guys, and back down the hill. So
That's very cool. Yep, it'll be
it'll
cool.
be very exciting. And we have the, just lots of things going on, lots of activities that different kids are doing. So even though sports are coming to an end, there will be things going on throughout the summer. We do have, last summer, we did the girls' sports camps, getting girls, young girls in grade school excited about sports. That is being sponsored again by our Athletic Booster Club, and so flyers will be coming out soon. It's right after school's out. Mark hasn't given me the exact days. I think it's probably the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, since we're ending on a Thursday. But it's right after school's out, and it's kind of like a little mini exploratory. They get to participate in some activities each day with high school girls athletes, and some boys, but mainly high school girl athletes for the sports that we have. And it's targeted at getting more young girls excited and involved in sports as part of our effort to improve our rating under Title IX. So that's an exciting thing that we haven't, the flyers haven't gone out yet, but you should be looking for those. So. Do you know any more about that, Grace?
I helped last year. I'm a
Okay.
soccer player, so we just set up some drills. Soccer coaches came and we just there's 3 age groups of the girls, and they just cycle through, and then they go to another sport. Like there was wrestling, and
They did wrestling and bowling and
golf.
swimming
Yes.
and all sorts of,
Yeah,
so
so they
really
got
good.
to-
Yeah, they got bused up to Gold Mountain also for golf.
That's right.
for the time.
Wow.
And it was fun, and the girls loved it. Yeah, they're well behaved. Yeah, it was entertaining. Yeah.
Okay. That's all I got. Capital projects, everything's kind of coming to an end, and we're moving, to get to the high school and the Theller work done. Theller went out for bid. We'll be getting those bids back in another week or so, and then that's an interesting one because we're splitting the costs with ESD 113. So how I bring that back to you will be a learning experience. The bid is one big package, but we're basically doing the infrastructure stuff, and they have a bunch of beautification things they want to do that they will be paying that part of the cost. So, but we'll be getting going so we can get that done. Not related to our capital projects bond, but you may have noticed that the parking lot is dug up at Theller. We had a pretty serious water leak, and that is getting repaired. So that will be good. Thank you, Joan. Yes.
And the high school stadium?
The high school stadium, we got the materials that we need. We sent stuff off to the county. We will be going through the KCDA bid process, which isn't really a bid process because KCDA has already done the bid and accept that. If Ray's team gets that done prior to our next scheduled board meeting, I may ask you to come back so we can get started right away and do a board meeting just to approve that expense. But if not, we will definitely do it at the June meeting so that can get started. And as you'll remember, we're doing that in stages. So the first piece would be the field, and then we'll do the other pieces.
Would that, is that going to impact our use of the field in the fall?
If they can get it back quickly, no, we'll be using the field in the fall, the new field. But maybe not, but we might not have the new seating or the new locker rooms and all of that.
We'll still be using the field for our sports.
Right.
Regardless of where
Yes.
the construction is going in, they're going to work around us.
Yes.
Okay, that's an important thing to know.
Yes. Okay?
Okay. Anything under budget planning? We've kind of heard from,
Kind of heard that we're doing some planning, but it's hard to plan without knowing how many dollars we have to plan with. So we're doing some prioritizing discussions with our leadership team. And there will be two things that I know will be, regardless of where the legislature is, in your agenda next month related to budget. All of our bargaining groups that have an established union are legally able to bargain after the start of the new fiscal year for schools, which starts July 1st. That does not include our non-represented staff and our administrators. So we're there to be more money to consider to be available for compensation for those folks. We would not be able to give it to them if the legislature doesn't do something prior to our June meeting. So our WASA, my group, has consulted with attorneys, and they have drafted two documents that I will put in the board agenda next month. One is an MOU, an agreement with the principals organization, because that's not officially a union. And the other one is a board resolution that pertains to everybody who's not in the principals group but is not included in any of our bargaining units. And both of those have very similar language. And basically what they do is they give us permission, because the RCW says that you cannot change those salaries after that date. They give us, by your vote and resolution, the opportunity to do that because of waiting for the legislature to get something done. So those will be one thing that we do just so that we're hedging our bets, because if we have more compensation allotted to us to pass through to our staff, we would like to be able to do that. And so we have to have taken that step. So we'll be doing that because we don't expect the legislature to have solved their part of the problem yet by our June meeting.
okay. So this brings us then to 4B, Community Linkage Planning and Message of the Month. Anything to be said about the event and athletic calendar?
I just wish there was a way when games are canceled or events are canceled that it could go up on the website immediately.
It's a good point.
Just, yeah, it's a very selfish reason, because I've driven to fields before and there's no game there. And it wasn't on the calendar, and I've even called the office and, oh yeah, there's still a game going on. So, anyway,
That's a good point.
yeah.
We'll share that with the athletic department and see
Yeah.
what they can do.
I think directly with the athletic director would
Yes.
be good.
Mhm.
Thank
Well,
you.
that's kind of who I meant.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay.
Great idea. I know what it's like to be at a meeting that doesn't exist, or to have just missed one. Okay, we got community meetings and events. Anything to be said there? Okay, we've got upcoming North Mason Life columnists, Leanna and Laura. Leanna's on for June and Laura for August, and we're not having anything in July. Did we speak about doing something for July, maybe?
Well, we normally don't. We don't pay for that.
Mhm.
So it would be an additional expense for us to do that. And we normally don't do it because school's not in session,
Yeah.
and most of our staff is not available
Yeah.
as well.
Right.
Yeah,
We did talk about it, but that would be more difficult to do. Also, the person who we pay to put that together, Pam White, is not really around in
yeah,
July.
yeah,
So.
well,
I think it would be better if we just stay
Yeah.
with our current schedule rather
That
than
sounds
add.
good.
Right.
Yeah. Tradition and fiscal prudence, that's nice. So, Dana, did you have anything on that offer I had from the, what is it, the North Bay Review?
No, I don't have an answer for you on
Okay.
your question yet.
Good. All right. That brings us to assurance of organizational performance and policy review, number 5. I guess we already have discussed the district calendar under that, which leads us, goodness, to adjournment. Is there comments? Are there any comments from the public? Announcements and comments from the board and the superintendent.
Anybody else going to the show tomorrow night? Are you?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll look for you. Are you, Megan? Okay, great.
I might be. I can't say for sure yet. I might not get a date out of it.
I just want to mention, because it involves one of our teachers, Saturday is the state competition for Project Citizen. And one of our teachers, Julie, what's her last name?
Lester.
Yeah, Julie Lester, always has a very good team that represents us very well. And she will be one of the competitors, but of course I won't be voting on her team. It always is very rewarding for me to see young people, these are junior high people, having proposed a policy, some aspect of law or conduct, the way we conduct our business in our society. They've come up with it themselves. They've researched it, and they presented it in their classroom. And now, there was a bunch of us judges that looked at it once, and now they'll be presenting it at the state capitol in one of the conference rooms that the Senate or the House of Representatives uses, and they'll present it several times before several different groups of judges. I'm one of the judges. Most of the other judges are lawyers. Some of them are, in fact, judges themselves. So it is a very worthy audience, and we have had from our school very worthy teams, and I think Julie deserves a lot of credit for that, and I look forward to seeing her group do well this coming weekend. So, do you have any final comments? Okay. Board self-assessment of meeting, that would be you.
Me.
Yes.
And I think that when, I think you did it before, right?
I did it.
I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, not that I'm passing it down to do it, but I thought that was kind of cool to let you guys do that, because it gets you kind of familiar with this and what's on here. And I think it was more of a true statement of what we were doing. You know? They were not just, of course we did that right? Because of course you guys are, judging us from every corner, right? So anyway, I'm going to read through them, and then if I don't think we were satisfactory, then I will make a comment. The agenda was well planned to focus on the real work of the board. The board followed its agenda and did not allow itself to get sidetracked. Comment and get sidetracked for a second. I like it when we get sidetracked because it always brings up either new ideas or things that we didn't know. So it's kind of nice, and we don't get to talk ever to each other much, so it's nice. Board members prepared for and contributed to the meeting. The meeting proceeded without interruptions and distractions. The board's deliberations and decision-making processes were public. Participation was balanced. All participated, no one dominated. Members listened attentively, avoiding side conversations. Work was conducted in an atmosphere of trust and openness, and meeting participants treated each other with respect and courtesy, as always, and satisfactory, I believe, for all of those, with a smiley face on our sidetracks.
All right.
And for the second half, we didn't build a new policy on this, but we had a new thing in here, didn't we, on this one?
We adopted some new policies.
Yeah. So, maybe I'm just in writing, I'm jumping down.
Oh, yeah, you guys didn't write a new
We
policy.
didn't write a new
No,
policy.
that's
Yeah,
when
we
you're
just-
doing your policy governance work,
Yeah.
and you really didn't do that.
Okay, so I just want, I'm gonna NA this real quick, okay. So number 1 here, board actions occur at the policy level rather than at the operational level. The board reviews policy about each topic before discussing that issue. And this is the NA one where we usually NA. In writing additional policies, the board starts with a broad statement and becomes more detailed in a logical and disciplined sequence. That was NA. The board minimizes time spent monitoring past performance. The board routinely dedicates time to reviewing, improving its own process. The board clarifies priorities, values when considering potential outcomes, beneficiaries, and costs of outcomes. The board follows an annual calendar based on a plan for doing its work. The board chair helps the board efficiently conduct its meeting very well. And the board spends most of its time deliberating issues, defining and clarifying its vision, and linking with its community, as opposed to fixing things. And the board supports the superintendent in any reasonable interpretation of its policies, as always. And yes, I believe that we are satisfactory overall. All that done.
All right. Now, our next meeting will be on June 15th at 6:30 in the usual place. We do have, before adjournment, the board is going to retire to executive session.
John, if I may suggest we do
Yeah.
the new one we added
Yeah.
first, and that should not take more than 10 minutes.
Okay.
And then we'll have to come back and go to the other one.
Yeah, and so we have 2 items. The first was,
To discuss strategy related to a grievance.
and the second is the annual superintendent evaluation. I suppose we may come out of that with some action. We may or may not.
Yeah, the first one, probably not. But we need to, it's possible.
Mhm. And it's possible that we will have some action on the second. Anyway, I will adjourn this part of the meeting, and I would imagine our executive session would take, what do you think?
10 minutes for the first one.
10 minutes?
30
10?
minutes for the second one.
Okay, so that would be 40 minutes.
10 minutes for the first.
And then we
10
have to
minutes
come
for
back.
And then we have to come back.
Oh, and then we come back?
And then we go back.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, you'll get to see some really interesting exercises of coming and going.
It's gonna be
So-
a magic trick, and everybody's
Yeah,
gonna be
with
gone when we
that
get back.
in mind, and for those of you
Disappearing act.
who want to stay to the
We got our
end,
itinerary
you
early.
can certainly come back and see, after we come out of our executive sessions, whatever it is we have to declare or not to say. So, our regular meeting is adjourned. We are now going to retire to executive session.
Are we doing